Hello and welcome to the Superhero Hub. I'm Sam,
Matt.
and today we're going to be reviewing.
The Flash.
This latest episode is called,
The Wrath of Savitar.
or as I like to call it, Wally Does It Again.
I know. Just as he was getting marginally better, he turned into a little div again, didn't he?
No,
What dopey Burke.
no,
I'm glad he's gone through that portal.
no. Spoilers. So anyway, yeah, the episode starts off. It's all good. It's all good. You've got Bazza and. Well, actually, yeah, they're doing the test run. They're doing the test run. Bazza, Jesse, and
Good
Wallace.
God, stop calling him Bazza.
Why?
It's terrible.
He's a moron. I'm going to call him that. So anyway, so Barry, as
Okay.
my friend affectionately calls him, Jesse and Wallace are going for a little test run to see if Wallace can actually save
Iris.
Iris when the time comes. So it turns out he's pulling off some fat figures. He can get the job done, but all performance anxiety is seeing flashes of Savitar, because you can remember in the last episode he was going to get some big belly burger, um, and Savitar appeared. So yeah, then it kind of flashes from there. Everyone's in high spirits. It's all good. You feel me? But and then obviously they announce the engagement. But then some questions are raised by Joseph. It's like, why didn't I've told you this story so many times, Bazza. You know what I mean?
Oh,
You know what I mean, boy. It's like I've told you the times of when I asked Francine's dad if I could marry her, and what a great story it was. I imagine it not to be a marginally
no.
uninteresting story, you know what I mean? But it's going on like it's the best story ever told. It's like, write a book then. You know what I mean? Quit being a police officer, be an author. Your stories are so good. So, and then Barry's like explains it away, but then you find out later that obviously it was a bit rushed. See, I would have thought maybe it was a bit rushed because he thought, I know, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to get engaged with her on the off chance she does die. But then it kind of turns out Wally pulls some strings with HR, and what are you nodding your head for?
Wally.
Oh, Wally by name, Wally by nature. I
Mm.
think I've said that before, but so he pulls some strings with Cisco to vibe him into the future to see what's popping. So he goes there and he notices on Iris's finger that there isn't a ring. So then he puts two and two together. You know what I mean? This kid's a genius all of a sudden. I mean, everything's going well. You know what I mean? The kid's
I
likable.
know. Before he could like barely fix a motor, and that was his thing, and now he's bloody Batman.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So he figures, oh, um, the reason why Barry didn't ask Joe for the hand in marriage, blah blah blah, blessing, is because he thought Barry proposed to her purely on the reason that to put the ring on her finger would change history. You know what I mean? Because they ain't engaged, change the future. So Wallace is chilling with his girl, you know, doing it big, blah blah blah. And then no,
He confronts Barry, right, and there's a big blowout,
yeah,
and
the
then
kid's an idiot.
I
The
know we'll get to that later.
No,
So
but the
there's
kid's an idiot there and then. It's like, why wouldn't he thought to himself, oh, maybe that's different, that's going to change the future, I'm just going to keep it under my hat, I'll pull Barry aside and tell him. It's like, now he's gone and told her there's a big blowout, and now there's a chance she's going to be like, fine, the engagement's off, which means the ring ain't going to be on her finger in the future. It's like, is this kid
right.
dumb?
Right, maybe that's the reason she doesn't have the ring on. How does he know how time travel works? Maybe that was always going to happen, right? So, and why also this is a dick move, like in front of everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Why take him to the side and talk to him about it?
Ex-
No, go out like a
exactly.
petulant child.
Exactly, the kid's a moron. So elsewhere, they kind of decide to have a séance with Savitar. Um, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
like
think
twice.
in terms of the timeline. I think, yeah, because Barry's with his girl. No, this is the issue now, isn't it? Damn it, I'm trying to think in terms of the timeline of the episode. They're
Because
just,
they do it once, right? And
yeah,
then they have to do it again because I think doesn't Caitlin like have a piece of the thing?
yeah, she has a piece of the stone which plays into the betrayal thing. Like, Yeah, that happens beforehand because he goes and talks. So either way, they have a seance with Savitar, and he's mugging them all off. And then it's just like whatever. And then he speaks about, the Philosopher's Stone being thrown into the Speed Force. And then he's like, aye, aye, something's going on here. But like, and he's saying he's got what he needs to get out of wherever he's stuck in his interdimensional prison, which we'll get onto later. But little does everyone else know. I mean, to the benefit of the team is that a piece of the Philosopher's Stone came off, and Caitlyn's been hiding it to try and find a way to use it to get rid of their power. So that plays into the "one will betray you" prophecy of the Wrath of Savitar.
Oh, is that it? That's lame.
Well, I don't know. It was hinted at. It was hinted at. I think a lot of that was hinted at anyway. So yeah, they kind of go mad at her, and then they kind of have another séance with him after they realise that Wally's obviously been in cahoots with him. Um, so yeah, and then they realise he needs the Philosopher's Stone to escape where he is, and that place just happens to be the Speed Force. So Barry locks him up in the Speed Force in the future, probably as a result of them saving Iris. I guarantee it's something to do with that, because obviously he pops up, the timeline's all messed up, because Flashpoint allowed him what he needed to kind of escape and impose his will on people, whatever. So yeah, it's interesting as well, like with the spy thing as well, because they're going on because Wally's kind of having visions of Savitar, how he could be a spy, and it's interesting because when Barry runs off to the mountains and like bangs all the monks out, they're like, "Oh yeah, you think your engagement's gonna change things?" So they knew that he was engaged, like before anyone else did.
Or
So
maybe because I mean, Savitar is from the future, is he not? So maybe he already knew that.
I don't know. I think something fishy's going on there. So God, this is it. This, yeah, they have a second séance and they kind of start to put the pieces together that he needs the Philosopher's Stone to escape. Like 3/4 of it has already gone into the Speed Force, and then the other piece, obviously, Caitlyn has. So because Wally's getting kind of mugged off by Savitar, he's kind of decides, "Oh no, I'm going to throw the other piece into the Speed Force," little knowing that kind of he's being manipulated all along. Like there's a vision of his mum saying he ain't fast enough, so he needs to give up. And then obviously Jessie runs to the team and she's like, "Oh yeah, Wallace having visions and is talking about rah 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 the stone." So they're like, "Oh no." Because they've realised that they need the other piece, but they've completely forgot about what Wally's doing. So Wally decides, "I know, I'm going to be the clever one. I'm going to throw the other piece of the stone into the Speed Force." So like Savitar's blatantly goading him, but he don't realise. You know what I mean? Classic Wally is like, "Don't, you ain't even fast enough to open a portal, mate. You're baggage." I thought it was great because I thought he's blatantly like trolling him and stuff like that. He's playing into his hands, but Wally don't notice. So he opens the portal, dashes in the piece of the stone, and then that's it. You know what I mean?
It's so stupid. Such an idiot.
Yeah,
Like he keeps on. How does he fall for that mum thing?
yeah,
How does he fall for that?
exactly. I thought it.
He's already got. He's already been put in this place for not telling people about having visions of Savitar earlier in the episode, and then his mum pops out of nowhere, who he knows is dead, and he thinks, "Oh no, I'm not going to tell anyone about that. I'm just going to run off like an absolute melt."
um, well, classic Wally. The kid's an idiot. He's like, "I'll handle it myself." Whenever he says, "I'm going to handle it myself," you know there's going to be a cock up somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it turns out that in the future, Barry's locked Savitar up in the Speed Force, and to kind of I'm trying to think like of something else to compare it to, because it's kind of been done before in other things where like it's kind of a switcheroo. It's like Savitar comes out but Wally gets put in. You know what I mean? So all along it turns out Savitar's give him his powers, has trained him, kind of subliminally trained him to be Kid Flash to save Iris, but really it's so he can replace him in the Speed Force prison. So Waller's been zapped off, he's had his suit burnt off, just like Barry did when he disappeared into the Speed Force. Savitar's crawled out, mugged Barry off, slapped him up, mullered him. Yeah, it's interesting as well, and just to go back a little bit in the first seance, because this kind of the wrath of Savitar, one will betray you, one will suffer a fate worse than death, and one will die. It's interesting because when they have their first seance, he goes to HR and he calls him a coward, and he said, he's nothing to do with the prophecy, the wrath of Savitar. He avoids it, so none of those apply to him. So it kind of narrows it down that HR, nothing happens to him. Now,
Well, doesn't he specifically say that he doesn't die?
he says he says I swear he says like it's nothing to do. It doesn't affect him. In
Okay.
no, none of the things happen to him. So either way,
Because he would be the one you'd assume at least Mud's got to stick with one of them. Because he's the one we know the least about.
yeah.
And
Well,
and they could always just bring in another Harrison Wells next year, right?
yeah, it's interesting because Caitlin chimes up. She says she's the one who betrays them because she's kept the peace unknowing to them. And then Jesse says that obviously Wally's the one who suffers a fate worse than death because now he's trapped in the Speed Force. And you've got to assume that Savitar's kind of from the place where he thinks his plan's going to succeed. So you've got to think that Iris West is the one who dies. So if that wraps it up, but I don't really know if Caitlin having that piece of the stone actually counts as her being the one who betrays him.
No, I think that's too easy. Also, someone else has got to die. They won't kill Iris, but someone's got to die in her place.
Yeah,
And it's
but
probably going to be Julian.
yeah, but I think that Savitar's kind of he's got this. He thinks in his head that Iris is the one who's going to die. It's not everyone else's opinion; it's his prophecy. So his prophecy is someone's going to die. He's not going to look at it like Barry's going to run in last second and save her. He's looking at like I thought this out. I planned everything. There's no way he can be stopped. So Iris is the one who's going to die.
From his point of view, maybe, but as a show, I think if you've teased they're going to kill someone, they will kill someone. And it just won't be Iris.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of
Who
the
it's going to be, I don't know.
in terms of the prophecy, they kind of gave some answers there. They kind of ruled HR out, but then they kind of started pointing fingers. So I mean, Barry's trapped in, Wally's trapped in the Speed Force now, presumably naked. You know, his suit's been burnt off, so is suffering right now. I think it's interesting that Jesse and HR are kind of getting a bit. She's looking to him as the kind of father, even though it's not the father, you know what I mean? Because this is the second time she's kind of been affectionate towards him, yeah? Because she was
Yeah,
distraught.
yeah, but at this point, I don't know why they don't just have Harrison Wells from Earth 2 on the show. Like, he fit with the team.
Yeah, I know. I think because they need him enough too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I kind of liked him as well. I liked him like the past two episodes where he kind of popped up. So yeah, Wally's in a bit of a pickle. They're like Barry has a bit of a like one-on-one with Savitar, gets slapped up a bit, ends up getting stabbed, but then he vibes through and like smashes the spike off, and then he ends up like waking up in. No, he gets it pulled out of him, and now there's like that's convenient now because now they just happen to have that piece of Savitar on them. What they're going to do with that, I don't know. But it's interesting as well because you get a kind of look at his suit. You kind of get. I think they've kind of moved away from CGI and they've actually just put a really tall actor in a suit because he didn't look as tall as he normally does. He kind of looked like normal size, and he kind of has the flash symbol on his chest as well if you looked closely. But it's interesting as well because like Barry tried to whip his helmet off, and I was expecting his helmet to come off, but I think it's interesting, but I think it's someone they know. I think
Yeah, because
Savitar's someone they know. Because to become what he is, he used the Philosopher's Stone and it turned him from a man into the obviously metal thing. So I think it is like they've put him in that thing so they can, at some point, like they're going to whip his mask off and it's going to be like. It's interesting that, like, Eddie Thorne is hinted to show up and he hasn't showed up yet, and there's only like 6 episodes left.
yeah,
Next episode's into the Speed Force where presumably they're going to try and save Barry. The episode after that is the doofy musical version, so you got to think, when's Eddie going to pop up? Is he
I
Savitar?
don't know. They still haven't confirmed that he'll pop up. I think the actor's still got another show. I don't know whether it's cancelled or not. But I think
They
he's still.
they confirmed he's going to show up in an episode.
Okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see. for him to only show up as one episode of Savitar and be gone would be a bit silly, I think. But what I think he is someone because they kept it was too much of a focus when Barry kept on trying to take the mask off
Yeah,
for
and
him to be
he
someone we don't
mentioned as
know.
well. It was the big thing for me. It looked like the mask was going to come off. I mean, I was expecting him to just whack it and take it off, but he says it's like, "Who are you under that mask?" So that's what kind of my thoughts were. Well, I mean, I thought Eddie, but then I thought forget about that because I don't know how that's going to play in. Like, make it him, and then like batter him, and then never see him again. You know what I mean? It's not going to be recurring in season 4. So then I started to think maybe it's Wally, but then I thought it'd have to have like. But Savitar said himself. I mean, while he was trapped in the Speed Force, like he lost his mind. He kind of lost his mind so many times already, and like the only thing that kept him going in his will is his will to kind of go on and like get revenge. Do you really think Wally's going to have that kind of will to keep him sane? You know, I'm thinking Wally's going to go in there and is going to lose his mind and then whatever. But it's annoying because Savitar said as well, he said, because Barry said, "Who are you under that mask?" And I think he replied, "You'll find out soon enough." So I think because it's kind of like the kind of reverse Flash conundrum that obviously from the future Eobard Thawne came back and killed the mum, and then it wasn't till like season 2 where he actually like chronologically met Eobard Thawne the first time when he got like trapped back in like the kind of modern era, and then they had to send him back to the future for him to come back and then kill the mum and then go back wherever again. So I think the first time they meet Savitar, obviously they've met him already, but I think the first time they ever meet him, like chronologically in time of, yeah, they've met him before, but the earliest point in time they meet him is coming up now. So they're
I mean,
gonna,
Savitar did say you were there when I became what I am, and
yes,
that was prior to Wally being sucked in. So maybe it is Wally. He also kept saying, if I remember right, what he said a couple of times was, "I'm the Flash of the future."
no, I am the future, Flash.
Yeah, right. I am the future. Is he saying I am the future Flash, or is he saying I am the future Flash?
I really don't know. I mean, will they try and pull that stuff out? But I mean, you got to consider, it's like, what's the point of them just bringing in someone? So I mean, it's kind of like the conundrum with Zoom as well, that it turned out to be like Jay Garrick or whatever. So I mean, whether they're going to go down the same route, I mean, prime suspects would have to be either Julian Albert or kind of Wally West. I mean, the odds are it'll probably be Julian. You know what I mean? And
Maybe
and
because
that through his past, he chose alchemy as kind of his vessel because it's like actually him, and he knows he can trust him. And now he's kind of worked his way into the team, and now they've kind of blew off like the betrayal thing. They've moved it on to Caitlin as opposed to him. It's like he doesn't actually know his Savitar until it happens.
and
So
he does have a legit reason to be angry with them based on this episode. Like Barry and everyone else pushed him twice into communicating with Savitar, even though he didn't want to do it.
yeah.
And with Caitlyn, he kind of figured out that she only really wanted him there to help get rid of her powers, at least in his opinion.
Yeah, but I think it's something. See, it's weird because like, what? Right, he's a normal guy, and then he touches a philosopher's stone, and then it gives him the speed. Gives him his speed powers, and turns like embellishes him with like metal, turns him into that metal armor. Then at some point it does something, or whether it's because of like the fact that he kills Iris, the future him kills Iris, and that means that they put the past version of him or current version of him into the Speed Force, and that causes him to come back and kill Iris. But because they've already done it chronologically, that's the reason they put him in the Speed Force. This is like the conundrum, you know what I mean? So I mean, from my perspective, I think it's because he kills Iris and they think, right, we're going to whack him in the thing. But now they're kind of aware of everything. Savitar's told them like everything that's gone on. It's like, is it that?
I don't know.
It's really complicated. So I mean, The next episode's into the Speed Force. Whether that's when, if they're going into the Speed Force to save Wally, whether they get flashes of like how Savitar came into being. So instead of like being there to witness someone turn into Savitar, whether they go into the like Speed Force and like witness it at another point in time. Because like Jay Garrick mentioned it, and then you saw flashes of like the bold guy kind of taking up the stone and like turning into Savitar. That's the kind of only flash or like vision you've seen of Savitar as a kind of normal guy. But whether that's just him like just a random guy because you don't actually know who Savitar was, I think odds are it's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for all intent, I mean odds are it's probably Julian. I don't know whether they'd do that with Wally West because Wally West is a kind of big character in the comic books. You know what I mean?
He is, but I imagine they find a way. If it is him, they'll find a way of restoring his personality.
I guess so. So yeah. Anything else we've missed?
Don't think so.
Okay. I mean,
So the hand in marriage thing from Joe. Really?
yeah, it's old fashioned though. And the problem with me, like an issue for me, is this stupid musical episode. For me, like now, like because I said I kind of got the episodes mixed up last week, but I'll echo what I said last week's review. That like how can they go from all this and then just have a pointless musical episode like not this week, next week, and then like go back to like super serious this stuff. That's why it's like what's really gonna happen? Are they're gonna have to save Wally to go into this musical episode or what? They're gonna go in there, fail to save Wally, like Savitar's on the loose now, and what? The music master's just gonna turn up and they're gonna sing and dance for an episode. For me, this episode just completely breaks up the season. I mean, put it on Supergirl, like do it like they did with Barry where he visited Supergirl, where it's like a different thing where it don't really matter, you know what I mean? But like to kind of break this whole thing up, like the last 6 episodes of the season and plop like that, which is going to be a completely pointless episode. They're just going to throw it in there and it's going to break the whole flow of the season up. That's what's annoying me right now as we're edging ever closer. So we'll have to see what happens next episode, but it's going to have to be next episode's probably going to be rushed. The storyline's all going to be rushed
Well,
because
that's
they've
not. We can't guess ahead. We're gonna have to wait and see.
well,
The timing does seem odd,
the
but
timing's the worst. It's
mhm.
literally the worst. This is the kind of episode you throw in like you should have threw in like last half just for the sake of doing it, not at such a pivotal time like clocking down to the like finale or whatever. So yeah, let's talk numbers before I get too
uh,
aggravated.
I'm gonna go with an 8.
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I'd give it 8.5. I thought it was a real solid. A lot was happening, better than the last two, I guess, but it's more
Yeah.
Savitar kind of thing. A lot of speculation, a lot of what's going to happen now, excitement for the next episode. Bye bye, Wally. That's what happens when you're a Wally, kids. If you mess about and don't tell people stuff, you're going to get sucked into a portal and stuck in eternal hell.
Yeah, but you'll be back next week.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. So the reality of the fact is, if you're a Wally, the consequences don't matter. I'm Sam,
On that.
and this has been the Superhero Hub.